Okay, round two. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to participate. Hopefully, you will find all this entertaining for the least. This is about genomic narratives, cross sensory design, inspired by the NFB Innovation Lab. I want to start by thanking the Korean Foundation for International Cultural Exchange, as well as the National Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art, as well as, of course, the National Film Board of Canada for the opportunity of the film I made, Bread Will Walk, that really borrowed a lot from latest innovation. My background is medical illustration, and I really was brought up developing, images of synthesis. So this means line work. I like to refer to it as almost like the DNA of visual concepts because you're really fleshing out your ideas and really building these structures that are much more line based structures, and eventually from my background with brain cross sections, pacemakers, technical illustrations, I gradually migrated towards surrealism, keeping that aesthetic of medical illustration, developing this technique I defined as medical expressionism. But one of my kryptonites is color, right? So that's one of the things I've never been able to grasp completely. I needed help with that. And genomic animation, the way I define it, is really the databases, right? AI is statistics, but when you regurgitate it, when you reverse that process of database acquisition of data in the stats, that's when you start having genomic animation. Essentially, the genome of an image, right? So it's all the images that ever existed of a specific topic that aggregate into these in-house diffusion models that were used for animation purposes. And from there on, really from a poetic perspective, I refer to it as genomic animation because it's working with these genomes of the image, right? So it's a poetic reference to it. So you see, from medical illustration and line work to then something with much more color, much more volume. A lot of this is actual manual digital collage, digital painting, but gradually a lot of these in-house techniques developed at the film board were utilized to really flesh out my images into more depth and more texture with the help of with this technique. And of course, it's a variable. The software is variable. It's been a lot of in-house tests early on, starting from 2020. And then I kind of refer to my production as a snowball, because different tools were sticking on as we kept on going, and the snowball got bigger and bigger. So see, this is still manual work here. This is cartoons, hand drawn, and around here, that's when AI intervention came in, right? So we used some depth-aware interpolation for the in-betweens. In here, some diffusion models to start fleshing out different textures and really injecting the line work, the urban planning of the cartoon with the genome of an image, right? And then you start having these tests. Here, this is another example of that, right? So it's the same thing but shown differently. I'm going to repeat that again. So you see, different layers are added. I basically prompt engineered different elements and then started overlaying them on the line work to be able to create that kind of depth. Then Bread Will Walk happened, right? So that's my latest film produced at the film board, where a lot of all of this knowledge really contributed to it, right? And I think it's interesting to mention that the final film that ended up at the festivals didn't have any AI. It was manual collages, but the learning curve really informed where to position myself as an artist on the whole process. So the film used a lot of these techniques, digital interventions, and you see these are examples of how the same creature, that DNA, as discussed earlier, is reenacts itself with different textures and different elements, with the help of a lot of these new technologies. So all of these are examples of visuals that were created with the help of the tools discussed. So I mean, the thing about these films is that you realize that technique is a thought form in itself, and it's thankfully often as interesting, if not more interesting, than the final product. I really think the pipeline itself and the processes that we and the learning curve from all this was something innately valuable independently, and all the documentation of the making of really informed my practice as a creator. I've been documenting a lot of the use of these tools in a almost like a visual journal, as you can tell, a visual diary. And with all this innovation, a place for that also was great to discover the innovation lab at the film board as an environment for all of these experiments. And I'm really excited about that, amongst other things. A lot of this is some of my speculations or my excitement about what it can be. Visualizing what a creative lab could feel like, a place where there can be rapid prototyping with tools as you're developing your creative practice. So again, documenting some of my journals of the making of here. Really deconstructing that initial. What would have been a traditional animation pipeline, really going into all kinds of directions, mocap, haptic robotics, and so on. So, I mean, one of the questions that comes in mind is usually what would be beyond traditional animation. I'm a firm believer that when you want to look at what animation could be, beyond the frame, it's before anything, at least on my end, about people and about that cybernetic relationship that we can build with these modules of connections with your audience. So I think that innovation in terms of animation and intertwined with AI will really, before anything else, remind us of that relationship, that sentience, that human sentience between creators and audiences and vice versa, and really just blur these lines. I think also, when it comes to cultural translation and practice, it's really relevant to be able to do this with the Korean Foundation for International Cultural Exchange, because in essence, a lot of the prompt engineering has a lot of innate biases when it comes to language, the way space is schematized and symbolics work. So one of the coming together, one of the points of one of the pressure points for that new generation of creators is to weed out a lot of the implied meanings of words, and how do you have language, how can you redefine your language and have that compass inform your process. So I think that's why that conversation is super important, to look into the cultural relationships we can build beyond the traditional go-to terms and languages that you can find available when you use prompts. So a lot of open-minded questions, and hopefully we can take it from there. Thank you so much.